Hey guys, welcome back to some fun in New Testament looking at the Corinthian letters. We are starting in now on Second Corinthians, and I want to do some general information about the letter as well as give you kind of a shape to the next few days and remind you of some things to be paying attention to as we look at the Corinthian texts. Okay, so first thing, following this little introduction and video, I need you to go and watch the Bible Project video. The next time we get together, which will be Monday, we're going to do two things. One, you'll have, one, you'll have a video, and I'm thinking about setting us up a little live meet for both sections together at the same time at 3:00 on Monday afternoon. But I may have to shift that around a little bit depending on my thesis defense. And so stay tuned for an email because I may set that up for this Friday, and that might actually work a little bit better just to get together this Friday around 3:00. So step one is watch this video because this is sort of our introduction to 2 Corinthians. Step two, watch the Bible Project video. Okay. Step three, stay tuned for an email for a video conference, a little Google Hangouts, Google Chat, Google Meet, whatever it's called. I'll probably set that up for Friday. My defense for my thesis, for my dissertation and my doctorate is Monday. And it looks like the way that that's going to shape up, it'd probably be better to do this on Friday. So we'll get together Friday and just catch up. It won't necessarily be academic. It'll just be a time for us to do a little fellowship and spend some time together. Who knows? My daughters may or may not invade our little hangouts. They've done that in the past with videos and things. So just stay tuned for some of that. I hope you guys are doing well. We're getting back into the next few weeks here as we lead up to May 1st, not necessarily knowing how things are going to shape up for the rest of the school year. And so I'm hoping to try and make sure we stay connected. If you need something, make sure you reach out and email me. I am praying for us, and guys, don't forget. A lot of what I'm doing right now is writing and posting material to that WordPress, that blog that I maintain. And so, if right now I'm doing a series, I started with the Philippians letter, I went on to the Colossians letter, and now I'm in the Ephesians letter. I'm just kind of working through major themes and issues in those letters. As Paul teaches and writes a lot of that material, because what I want to be clear about is some material from the prison epistles that Paul writes that I think makes a lot of sense out of our current circumstance. And so that's my logostestimony.wordpress.com. If you're interested in checking that out, go ahead. Here's the deal. 2 Corinthians, as we jump in now to the material, real quick, have notes. We're not going to dive into the text today. This is just overview and some general transition out of the 1 Corinthians stuff and into 2 Corinthians. But have some notes, okay, and be walking through this. And we've talked about this before, but just as a reminder, 2 Corinthians is actually probably the third letter that he wrote to the Corinthian church. There's a letter in between 1 and 2 Corinthians that archaeology doesn't have. That we have not dug up out of the ground. We don't have access to it. We have some things that it seems like Paul talked about with them. He apparently had a really good first visit. He planted the church, things went well, and then he wrote 1 Corinthians, and then things didn't go so well, and then there was a painful visit to the Corinthian church that was followed by a letter. That seems to be the one that we don't have. And then he writes them this letter, which is much more in tone, much more like a lot of the rest of his letters. It's not full of that that angst, right, and that unknown that was in the middle letter, it seems, or that was in the first letter. In the first letter, he's really heavy on this idea of we love God, but at points in the 1 Corinthians letter, he's a little bit sharp and a little caustic. He can be really kind of piercing in some of his comments in the first letter. But here in the second one, things are definitely aimed more at reconciliation. And that's probably one of the best ways to describe the tenor the tone, the intentions, the material of the Second Corinthian letter. Second Corinthians is all about this idea of reconciliation, and Paul uses the reconciliation that God has established with the world as a kind of paradigm for how Paul and the church can be reconciled back together after some of this strife and this tension that they've experienced. And so we're going to look at a really critical passage in that idea of reconciliation and the ministry that Paul feels like he has as a carry-on from the ministry Christ has begun. We're going to look at that, and that'll kind of be our key for the rest of the book. And that's a dramatically different look than the material in the Bible Project video, but I think it's sort of key for the whole piece. Hang on. Hi. You want to say hi? Go ahead.
Hi, guys.
Do you need something?
Mhm.
What you need? Okay. You can have a snack in a minute. Let Daddy do this. Why don't you go back out and play with your sister?
But I'm done.
Okay. Well, then find a place to sit. I'll get you a snack in a minute. Okay? Okay.
How about I get a snack I can reach myself?
Go ahead.
I'm
Okay. Sorry. Back to this. We're going to focus in on some of that reconciliation materials as a paradigm that I think helps shape the rest of the letter, especially anything that comes after chapter 5. Okay. So we're going to look at that as a focal point on Monday's video. Paul's letter is, it's always good to see these follow-on letters, 1 Thessalonians and 2 Thessalonians, 1 Corinthians and 2 Thessalonians. I can hang it up in a minute. Say hi. Okay. It's always good to see these follow-on letters because we get to see something in the development of the church. In the 1 Corinthian letter, the church is struggling to get a grip on what Paul is teaching them. They seem to be really wrestling with the truth of what Paul has to say and whether or not they want that to be real for their lives. In the 2 Corinthian letter, they seem to have come around through some of this extended conflict and things, but Paul feels like he still has to do a couple of critical things. He needs to legitimize himself to the community of faith by demonstrating to them, because of Christ's reconciliation, demonstrating through Christ's reconciliation with the world and our now reconciliation in light of Christ's reconciliation, how, thank you, very nice, demonstrating how we as reconciled to God,
Please have a snack.
go get it, demonstrating how we as reconciled people with God now reconcile with the rest of the world by not pursuing the stuff of the world around us, like wealth and fame and fancy clothes and all this other stuff that a lot of the individuals who were proclaiming themselves to be apostles were not. And Paul's point is that real apostleship comes with different kind of status markers for what it looks like to be a Christ follower. And that's part of what is an outgrowth. Hang on. That is part of what is the outgrowth of what is going on in the message and ministry of reconciliation.
I need noodle soup with some grass.
Okay.
I'm
You are. Go eat your snack, girls, and let me teach, please. Because everything for Paul in the 2 Corinthian letter is totally reshaped by this idea of reconciliation. And what we see is this shift from 1 Corinthians to 2 Corinthians, where in 1 Corinthians, Paul's trying to drive home this basic point, love God and love other people. And they're really wrestling to get that. In the 2 Corinthian letter, he's like, look, this is how great it is that Christ has done all of this for us. And now in light of that, this is how that reshapes everything else that we do, everything else that we think, and it reshapes these traditional markers of status in any kind of society. It's not about wealth, and it's not about eloquence, and it's not about any of that. It's not about the ability to make this video without the interruptions of my daughters. It's not about all of these outward trappings and markers. It's about the content of the character and the reflection of Christ that the person preaching the gospel brings to you. And that's one of those tests that you can sort of Is this person legit or not? Well, does their life reflect the reconciliation with Christ that he has established for us? That's kind of one of the big ones. So we're going to walk our way through that piece, this reconciliation piece, because I think everything in the 2 Corinthian letter gets narrowed into this reconciliation paradigm and then gets spread back out as he deals with things in the letter. And so we're going to focus big picture kind of on what's going on here come Monday for your time with 2 Corinthians. Okay. I think that's my cue to go ahead and step to the side for a second. Baby's crying and I need to go take care of her. But here's what I need you to do going on from this. I need you to go and watch the Bible Project video. Okay. And just come ready on Monday for some in-depth material in 2 Corinthians. Thanks, guys. See you next time.